Hello everyone! Yes, this is part 2 of this year's New Year, New Game challenge where I play a new game, a new game to me, every day in the month of January, and stream them over on Twitch. Then I put this little video together and we look to see if any of them are any good, whether I should even bother keeping them in the collection. Maybe I should shift them on and get something else, something I'm going to enjoy. You never know. But yeah, this is games number 11 to 20. If you want to see what numbers 1 to 10 were, there's a link somewhere in the description. Also, I'll link last year's set of videos, because, it's just interesting. I think I've played some pretty different games, ones that not everybody would ever decide to pull off of a shelf. So, anyway, as I said, here is games number 11 to 20. Have fun! With this challenge, I always like to try and go out of my comfort zone, and I mean way out of my comfort zone, with the games I play a couple of times at least. Last year that was going down the roguelike card game route, of which I played Slay the Spire, and I actually ended up really enjoying it. So this time I thought I would up the ante and go for a digital version of a tabletop fantasy game. I'll have to say this game made absolutely no sense to me, but I also found that the game was running into a few issues, and these weren't through my own stupidity. There was something wrong with the game itself. You see, this is a PS4 release, and I was playing it on a PS5, so I'm not sure if the game is just made badly, or because of this it was causing some weird things to happen. But I kept losing the HUD, or I wouldn't be able to select anything to advance the game. I restarted the game multiple times to overcome this. To be honest, it took a while for me to realise there was anything wrong in the first place, but I think that's just because I didn't know what was going on. Come to think of it, I don't even know where I got this game from. I did play a couple of full games on it and slightly started to understand the mechanics, but not enough to get a victory. But I put this down to the lack of strategy I have for anything in life. I struggle to see more than one move ahead, and I only react to things that are happening there and then, which makes a game like this almost impossible for me to get my head around. But even with my obvious handicap, I did quite enjoy it when it wasn't throwing a hissy fit and refusing to work. I think I'll just stick to my rhythm games in the future. They're easy to follow along with. Being just a digital board game, there isn't much available along the lines of a campaign, well, that I could find anyway. It's built more to be played against other people over the powers of the old internet rather than against the CPU. And trust me, I wasn't going to play this on the internet. I was being decimated by the CPU in the easiest setting. I would say if you're into board games such as Risk or other strategic ones, you'll most likely get a lot of enjoyment out of this. The girlfriend loves board games, so I think I'll pass this one on to her to enjoy. Then she can show me up and just laugh at my incompetence. Actually, Chrissy, if you're watching this, if you can win a game on this, I'll suck it up and play Monopoly with you. God, I hate Monopoly. Wild Arms was an interesting one. Again, I gave this a go because it was part of the PlayStation Plus subscription, but also because I've always wanted to play it, and this way it included trophy support. And I love a good trophy hunt now and then. It's your standard JRPG affair. It was released all the way back in 1998 in Europe for the PS1, but refreshingly, the bulk of the game is played out in 2D, with only the battles rendered in 3D. The story had something to do with a demon that couldn't be killed, that wreaked havoc on the world, so they cut it into 3 pieces and scattered it around in different areas. Of course this is going to go wrong, but I didn't get that far into it. As I always say, playing a JRPG for a couple of hours is pretty much just playing the tutorial, but I enjoyed what I've played and I've been back to it a couple of times already. I'm still not making a great deal of progress though. It's one of the soon as you lose all your HP, the game is over JRPGs. No being sent back to a town or anything, so you can heal up and gear up and go again. It doesn't seem to be the most difficult of RPGs, but that's not going to help me, as I'm awful at them. I love them, but I just suck at them. The inclusion of trophies though will keep drawing me back, even if I start to get frustrated. See, sometimes these modern add-ons do have positive effects. I can't tell you how many Switch games I've fallen off of and not gone back to, but I most likely would have if they had their own achievement system. Due to trophies and achievements, some of the games I've gone back to have turned out to be fantastic, and I just wasn't in the mood from that evening, and I would have just written them off, which would be a shame. I do feel that I'm going to have a good time with this one, and I can see myself picking up a physical copy down the line. For an RPG on the PS1, it's currently rather affordable. Actually, did saying that just seal my own fate. It's also a franchise with a good number of entries, so I hope it becomes one I want to work my way through slowly one day. I definitely recommend giving it a go if you've got the PlayStation Plus subscription. For day 13, I thought I would dive back into the PS Plus library once more, since I was now paying for it and I didn't want to feel like I wasn't using it. So from all the amazing sounding games I was scrolling past, why did I choose to give I Am Bread a go? This will forever be as much of a mystery to me as it is to you. If you haven't ever heard of this game, the premise is simple. become toast. You have to maneuver a sentient slice of bread to a heat source to cook yourself, while somehow remaining edible. And guess what? You're bread. You don't have any fucking legs. So how are you going to get to the destination? It's simple. Well, in premise it is. You can control each corner of the slice and anchor it to a surface to allow it to pivot or swing. Where this gets difficult is remembering the orientation of your slice, as it isn't a simple, whatever is up the top of the slice is always the same button. No, the buttons for the corners stay the same, but as you slap and flip your yeasty self around the level, you could be upside down, so what you feel is the top of the slab might actually be the bottom. And backwards at that. You also have to pull off daring feats to clear gaps quickly and fluidly. If you ever see a speedrun of this game, it's insane. All this has to be done while not touching the floor or getting covered in other sticky substances. Or bugs. It doesn't take much to become inedible. The first level starts out easy with you only having to make your way to a toaster, but the more levels you play, the heat sources get more inventive. One level you might have to slide down the side of an electric fireplace to hit the on button, before climbing back up to dangle yourself into position of pure health and safety nightmare to cook yourself over the filament. Other things have you finding things like ways to light a barbecue. I can't lie, it does get a tad repetitive, but if you want to put something on to build your stress levels for 30 minutes or so, you can't go wrong. If you fail too many times though, the game will throw you a bone. It will give you an invincibility power-up, which allows you to blitz across the levels without fear of becoming a filthy mess. If I remember correctly, the power-up comes in the form of marmalade. Don't worry, there isn't any Outlast-style horror moments where you're chased by a giant Paddington bear for using it. I can see myself going back to this quite a bit when I've got nothing else to play, but I don't think I'll be attempting the completion. Getting A++ ratings on this looks impossible. I don't think I ever got anything higher than a D. You love the D. If nightmarishly difficult, physics-based platformers are your thing, give this a go. The same company I think released another game after it called I Am Fish. I haven't looked into that one yet. I will do after I beat this. That may be a while. Still Harbinger is an odd one. It's a 3D, almost top-down shooter, but all the characters are 2D sprites. I think it's technically known as a 3/4 perspective or something. Anyway, all I knew about this going in was it was meant to be difficult, and it had really cheesy full-motion video sections to progress the story. For me, the FMV scenes from the 90s is what really sold it to me. The game is set in the year 2069, and the United States are at war with neighbouring countries, but halfway through this, aliens decide to invade. To be able to fight back against these invading forces, they create a half-alien, half-human woman, which, as you guessed, that's who you play as. Can't remember her name, though. From here on out, you're tasked with walking around different sections, which almost feel like little walled-in arenas, checking buildings for humans to rescue and aliens to shoot. It's not a very deep game, but surprisingly it doesn't play out with a linear level structure. You can transport between different areas and work on different missions or side objectives. I got a little stuck at the beginning because I couldn't work out where to go, as I was just expecting a level-by-level romp. It felt like I was just caged into a tiny square. I'd killed everything, but no doors were opening to allow my path of destruction to continue. Turns out the door I needed to go through would only open once I'd destroyed some turrets above it. But to do this, you needed to jump in the air and shoot. Due to the perspective, this wasn't very obvious. They looked like they were just on the same level as all the other enemies. Anyway, as soon as they were done, I was free to roam about. I spent the next couple of hours just shooting aliens and trying to work out the objectives. These come in the form of finding keys or powering up generators. The first one's being used to open up the transporter system, which you use to switch between areas. The game has a weird mechanic where you can save humans, but at the same time, they will try and kill you. Well, only the army men ones. The women just walk around helpless. I don't understand why the government didn't let the civilians know that our character was friendly, or it could be that they were just the Canadians that they were at war with before the invasion. Actually, come to think about it, the game is just weird in general, from its presentation to its premise. I feel like it was never meant to be taken seriously. Well, I hope it wasn't anyway. I didn't die too much in the game, but I could sense it was going to get way more challenging in the later stages, but I did find myself taking damage from almost everything. I do feel this would have been greatly improved with twin-stick controls, and maybe a dash dodge, but I think the game was a bit early for that. Overall, I actually had quite a bit of fun with this. I don't really know who to recommend it to, other than masochists. It's not a great game, but if you can look past its rough edges and enjoy its campy nature, there is a little bit of fun to be had. It might not be worth the asking price these days though. It seems to have skyrocketed since when I purchased it about 6 months ago. Pretty sure it was shouted out by that Metal Jesus fella. Oh god, here it is. The one game of the whole challenge I couldn't even take for an hour. I was hoping for a bit of a theme hospital style experience with this one, but I was way off. Basically, you create production lines to make the drugs to be sold by Big Pharma. You have to add different parts of the line, such as different machines that ingredients go through so the pills get refined in certain ways to change their medicinal properties. Basically, the game boiled down to a whole lot of addition and subtraction. Pop it through one machine to increase some stats by 1, then drop it through 2 different machines to lower another stat by 2. This wouldn't be too bad, but the UI of the game is unbearable. When checking the properties of medicines or machines, or even just what it's asking you to do, you have to wait for the pages to automatically scroll. You can't hold it on the page of information or select what you want to read. This is what broke me. I would forget what I was trying to do, so then I would have to just sit through a roll of pointless information just to see the numbers I was aiming for. This made the game a serious chore to play, and when I was bowing out I thought I'd been playing it for hours, but it was only about 45 minutes. I can't see how anyone in their right mind could find this game fun. Even people who do taxes for fun wouldn't enjoy this. Might explain why I got the special edition of the game sealed and delivered to me for something stupid like £2.99. To lower the quality of the game even more, this edition was supposed to come with an origami heart. I was hoping when I opened the case it would have already been made and look quite cool. Nope, it just contained a red post-it note. A red fucking post-it note. They put a slipcase around this just to advertise that it came with an origami heart. What the fuck? Then again, making the heart might actually be more entertaining than this pile of human waste. Avoid this one. Somehow it took up until day 16 to finally get around to playing a Switch game, and it's not the one I even was intending on playing. Originally I was going to give World of Goo a go, but realised it required motion controls to play, and I didn't even have the Joy-Cons charged, only the Pro controller. So I settled with Graceful Explosion Machine, though I do feel this was a blessing in disguise. It's just a wave-based shooter, which somewhat reminded me of Geometry Wars on the 360, but played as a more horizontal shmup. Basically, the game drops you into a single screen level, and tasks you to survive. This is easier said than done, as it soon becomes a hectic mess of bullets and enemies, but I mean this in the best way possible. It's also got an element of tactical combat to it. Certain enemies are weak to different weapons which you can pick up throughout the levels and switch them on the fly. Each level has 3 waves, or phases as it calls them. Every phase works as a checkpoint, so if you die it's not game over. Well, it will be if you lose all your lives, but even if this does happen, it's only the level progress you lose, nothing else. It's not the kind of shooter that chucks you straight back to the beginning. You also have a health bar, so it's not a one-hit death experience. The simple but colourful graphics kept me hooked on this one, and I played it for way longer than I thought I was going to. I think I beat 3 of the 4 planets, but I imagine you unlock more stuff once you get to the end of these. I'd say if into shmups and want something handheld which you could pick up and play whenever you have a spare 20 minutes, I don't think you could go wrong with this one. The physical copy from Super Rare Games is also affordable. It keeps quite close to its RRP on eBay, maybe going up by about £10 only. Although this may seem still a tad expensive for what is essentially an eShop time waster. But it's a good time waster at that. For day 17, I was again back on the hunt to scratch that power wash itch, and was given the heads up about a little game called Fresh Start from Big Game Al of all people. So I jumped straight onto YouTube, watched some trailers, then picked this straight up. Yeah, I know it's not a game from the backlog again, but sometimes I just can't help myself when it comes to playing something new and shiny. This was billed as being a nature restoration game, and that pretty much hits the nail on the head. You walk about with a vacuum sucking up debris and rubbish you come across to clear areas. Your vacuum can also be used to suck up water and spit it back at wilted plants to help them grow big and strong. Kind of like the way my parents would tell me it would happen to me if I ate my vegetables as a kid. We all know that was a lie now, don't we? This game is set with a level-based structure, with each zone being a different part of the world. Some of these levels can be pretty long, but you expect that with this kind of game. Sadly, if you leave a level and go back to it, it resets all your progress, so if you're going for the 100% trophies or achievements, make sure you hit that mark before moving on. Your progress is always displayed on the screen, so it's not difficult to do. I did start to struggle with finding bits that I hadn't completed, mostly the plants that I hadn't grown. I then realised there was an upgrade which lets you ping out what looks like a sonar to show up what you're missing. As I said, this is great for plants and mounds of earth that you haven't tackled, but anything that's already been broken up and still yet to be sucked up by the vacuum will not be displayed. I've since gone back and got the platinum trophy out of this one and thoroughly enjoyed it, but like everything I seem to play, it's not for everyone. It feels like it was rushed out to jump onto the casual cleaning game market. This isn't a bad thing, but if they put more time into it, they could have made it a little less repetitive. I will say though, introducing the wildlife back into their habitats and giving them a good old pet on the head, It's very satisfying. It also lets you put hats on cats. I feel like I may have been playing this one just a month too late. Or is that 11 months too early? Anyway, this has been sat on my shelf for quite a while. It was the first physical release by Limited Run Games for the PS5. I think it may have also been my first physical game I owned for the console. When I picked it up, I didn't know it was a prequel to another game, Cthulhu Saves the World. I will say, you don't need to have played that to enjoy this one, but it does reference the first game from time to time. So enough waffling, what kind of game is it? Simply, it's a turn-based RPG. And I do mean simply. It's pretty bare bones. When you get to a location, you're tasked with completing a certain number of random encounters before the enemies stop spawning. You do not need to finish all of these, but it does help with leveling up so you can take down the area boss. If you can't be bothered to walk around waiting for the encounters, you can just keep initiating them from the pause menu. I worked on getting 100% enemies defeated on the first screen of a section, then walked around with no worries collecting items that might come in handy. These are your usual RPG staples such as potions, weapons and armour. Nothing about this game is difficult, but if you do find yourself struggling, you can turn on getting all your health back after every encounter in the menu. Between the levels there are social events that you can choose to participate in, which either increase or decrease your friendship with characters. These play out more like a visual novel style, and I would encourage you to max out one friendship, as I think this is the only missable trophy in the game. So far this sounds rather negative, so why should you play it? Well, just because it's funny. The game knows what it is and it pokes fun at itself, and the genre as a whole. It's also only a couple of hours long for 100% completion, so it might be a good one for the trophy hunters. Surprisingly, this short little romp also includes a platinum trophy, so that may sway it for a few more people. As long as the first game is of a similar length, I'd be happy to give it a go. Any longer and it would really outstay its welcome. I also like Cthulhu as a character, as he's just stuck in situations and he has to go along with it no matter what. It's funny to see a great old one played out in this comedic fashion. I don't know if this is available digitally, but I imagine it is. I'd recommend looking for that version rather than the physical. Days Gone is a game I've wanted to play for a very long time. I have seen the girlfriend playing through it, but I've been waiting for her to finish it before I jumped in. Sadly, she put it to the side to continue her obsession with Dead by Daylight, so I couldn't wait anymore. It was already installed on the PS5 and I was looking for new things to play, so this was the perfect time. Unfortunately, I don't know how much of my footage I'll be able to use for this part of the video. My internet wasn't playing ball. It broadcast so bad and pixelated. I'm not talking normally pixelated here, I'm talking squares the size of fucking shreddies. If you've been living under a rock and didn't know what one of PlayStation's biggest exclusives is, well, it's a third-person zombie survival game. The two main gimmicks of this are you can travel anywhere on a badass motorcycle, and when you set off the undead, you're chased by hundreds of the bastards. These aren't shuffling abominations, these sprint at you, a la 28 Days Later. I actually didn't get too far into the game, but I did find that these huge amount of enemies mainly came after you burnt down one of their nests. On a side note, I wasn't expecting to be able to bludgeon dead children with a blunt weapon so early on in the game. As with any Sony open world exclusive, it starts with a lot of story before being thrust into a sandbox, which feels full of tacked on side quests until something major happens. This isn't exactly a negative though, as the world itself is fun to explore, so putting a few arbitrary tasks in while I'm wandering about isn't really an issue. Due to the large number of enemies though, you are forced to stealth about quite a bit, which really isn't my playstyle, but it works fine in this. It reminds me of the stealth in Horizon Zero Dawn, which I was a big fan of. My only gripe with the game is I always felt like I'd run out of fuel, but I think this was more down to me not knowing how far I could go without having to find more. I also imagine you can upgrade your bike to hold more somewhere down the line. I had this issue when I played Mad Max too, but that let you store extra canisters on the back of your car, and after a while I forgot I even needed it and it just became second nature, which I imagine will happen with this as well, with more playtime. At the end of the day, I really enjoyed what I played at this, and I hope that people enjoyed the 20 minutes of it that were actually visible. It's one I'm definitely going back to in the future, I just don't know how soon though, as I have a good number of lengthy games on the go at the moment. I would recommend this, but play it on a PlayStation 5. I've heard it can be a bit of a rough time on a base PS4, which unfortunately caused the game to flop. This is a bit of a cult status now, and fans are praying for a sequel, so it must be good. Okay, this one is a mouthful, so I'm going to make sure I only say it once. For day 20, I gave a PS1 import a go. It was recommended to me by Eddie of Rollerxcore. He also sold it to me. Ulterior motives. And that game is... Okay, here goes. Time Bokan Series Bokan to Ipatsu Doronbo. I hope that's close enough anyway. As you can tell by the person who sold it to me, it's a shmup. A vertical one to be precise. Why I keep playing these for the challenge when I don't know how to talk about them, I don't know. I always struggle to come up with anything other than it scrolls and you shoot things, but let's have another go at this. When it comes to the story, I haven't got a clue. It was all in Japanese, and the anime cutscenes had some dude with a big nose who looked evil. A bit like a bargain basement Waluigi. That's about as much as I garnered from it. But this wasn't played for the story, it was played for the gameplay, which I'm happy to say wasn't too brutal for a shmup. I didn't finish it, but I did reach the final stage, so I know I'll be able to take it down with a few more goes. The main gimmick of the game is being able to change characters between stages, each which have vastly different attack styles. You can't use the same character twice in a row though, so it forces you to try out different ways to play and work out who's best for each level. My biggest gripe with the game though is sadly when you get hit, your main vehicle is destroyed. This forces you to continue on with the stage on some sort of motorcycle until you're killed or you power up again. This is a great idea, but it plays a constant high-pitched beep when you're in this mode. Over and over. It's actually more grating than Baby Mario's wails. That's right, I went there. Something is more annoying. This motorcycle is much weaker than the main vehicle, but you will still be able to finish stages with it without too much trouble. Another thing that isn't an issue, but I kept forgetting that the sides of the screen scroll. It's not a locked screen. You can go quite far left or right before hitting the edge of the map. This freedom is essential in the later parts of the game where you need to dodge things like mine traps that are scattered in your path. I think this is based on a long-running anime series, but I haven't looked into it. But if there are more shooters, I'm game to give them a go. I'd actually recommend this to anyone who's after something a bit different. It's really colourful, and that's all I really want from a shooter. I'm a simple person. Well then, that's part 2 of this year's challenge documented for me to look back on years to come, just wondering what the hell I was doing with my life. Again, it's another mixed bag, but it's how I want to do this. I like waking up in the morning and not knowing what I'm going to be playing and just keeping it random. Let me know if you've played any of these before and if I should bump them further up the backlog so I revisit them quicker. I might be missing something with them, you never know. After the last video, my top 3 were Arcade Paradise, Cotton Reboot, and Evil West. But has it changed? Has anything new crept into the top 10? Ooh, drum roll please. Well, it ain't fucking Big Pharma, is it? Anyway, all jokes aside, yes, Time Bokan has crept into one of the top spots. I genuinely really enjoyed that. That is a fun little colourful shooter, and anything colourful to me, yeah, it stimulates something in my brain, and I'll play it for as long as I can. I'd say it's knocked out Arcade Paradise, so currently in the top 3 there's Evil West, Cotton Reboot, and Time Bokan, which means 2 shooters in the top 3. Wasn't expecting that, but they're 2 pretty fun ones. Anyway, see you in God knows however long it takes me to make a 3rd part to this, a 3rd and final part. So if you want to see that, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, tell me anything you want to know. I'll chat about anything in the comments. Hopefully. I do reply. Sometimes it takes me a while. But yeah, all I've got to say is I'm buggering off now. Have fun, people.